Students, take your seats, get your quills, your parchment, your frogs, your crows, whatever magical students keep on hand. I don't know this stuff. Welcome to Ioth Academy. I'm Tormented by Gnomes. I'll be your game master today. Joining me is my phenomenal cast consisting of Crowan, Leg Day, Lemon Kiwi, and Necra. Crowan, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just ate some food, ready to play some D&D and find out why Ioth is fake.
Ioth is fake news confirmed.
Conspiracy.
Leg Day, how are things going across the pond?
Not too bad. I've mostly been stressing out. My mum's getting remarried on Friday, and I've got to do a speech, which is my current D&D quest. So I'm going to have to introduce her and her new wife to the world.
That's a heavy burden.
It is.
Yeah. I hereby grant you inspiration on your performance check to give that speech.
Yay!
Thank you, thank you. I'll try and make sure I've got some points in charisma for the day.
Lemon, how are things?
Good. Finished up a Warzone cast and feeling very talkative for D&D today. Hopefully no kid-on-kid violence, but no promises.
Yeah, the Ozmakers have something else to say. Necro, what about you?
I'm hungry.
That's a mood. I just want to go on record as saying that technically it's not a real authentic Casters and Castles stream without somebody just like eating during the break, just going back to camera. Usually it's Bren just with, some food snacking. So you're in good company. Don't let us stop you. Besides, if we were all sitting in the same place around a table, gathered together, like, you have to play with snacks. It's the rules.
Yeah.
I think Ariana agrees also.
That's true. That's true. That's method acting. I respect that.
Please refer to me only as Ariana.
When last we left our young students, they'd finally reached their third year at Ioth Academy. You've all received your yellow robes and increment your age by 1 year. You should be, let's see, you were 10 or 11 in year 1, 11 or 12 in year 2. You should be 12 or 13 now that you're in year 3.
Good for you.
Unless you're an elf, in which case it may be something else.
We're old.
Chaotic teenagers engage.
Right.
It's not weird to have crushes anymore.
Chaotic childhood wasn't enough. We closed the curtain last as Garnet's shadowy imp got close enough to Ioth as he was giving his rambling, semi-incoherent opening of the year speech and confirmed that he's not physically present, even if he may not even be physically real, but whoever was standing there giving that speech was an illusion. The ceremony ends and everyone, Sventisco goes back to the Grove. Cryas and company and Renobi and the four of you are ushered back by the caretakers to the Great Hall, ostensibly to begin the new school year. But Garnet has just learned, or at least confirmed, something that the whole team had on their minds. So as you settle in, you're receiving your syllabi for the next year. We're going to talk about classes in a moment. There's a whole new batch of classes to pick from last year. Is there anything you want to whisper or do before you take a look at the curriculum?
Probably let them know later about the illusion stuff. We'll have time to chat after. Ah!
Okay. We'll see if you have time to chat based on...
An act of God.
Aggressive.
The syllabus is enchanted. We've boggles.
You're taking Calculus 3.
No!
Everybody's learning about boggles.
Boggles. Greasy little goblins who make everything worse. But
Algebra 2.
But you don't know anything about that, so I wouldn't be at all worried. Obviously, you have nothing to fear. So what were you saying before the DM learned that boggles are arriving to ruin your life?
Who, me?
Garnet's
oh my
the
god,
one...
is that real?
Yeah, that was the act of God. Boggles.
Oh, God.
No,
I
no.
thought Boggle was like a game in America, like a board game.
What's that called? It's called something similar to that. Twitch has ruined me. All I can think is like Poggies and Poggers. But I know.
Wow.
Boggles.
You're an adult male to know. Get your shit together.
Dude. Working with the
There's a game
observers
called Boggle.
zoomerfied my entire vocabulary. Like, I did not know what booling was. I was so sheltered, I didn't know what dabbing was. And now I catch my wife saying this stuff because it gets into your brain like a virus.
It does.
Anyways, as we were saying,
What
did
was
Garnet
it?
want to do anything with this information before everyone starts picking their classes?
I think there's a non-important conversation we can have after we pick classes.
Okay. I would like all 4 of you to roll 1d20, please.
Oh, that's
Oh my
how we pick
God.
it.
Boggle's a real word game. I forgot.
It is Boggle. It is Boggle.
Oh, getting the 2s out of the way.
We've all got to play a word game, guys.
Sorry.
Scrabble
I
for
got
first
really
pick.
distracted. Oh, no.
Okay. Garnet, as you're making your way back into the Great Hall, I would like you to roll a dexterity saving throw.
What the heck?
You
A
tripped on
9.
your laces.
As you're going over the different papers and trying to see which of these classes are going to help you in unraveling the mysteries of Anachronis, the Eschaton clock, or the powers of the void, you slip and just splat straight on your back.
Ow!
And whatever you were carrying goes flying in all directions.
Ow!
Are we with her?
Yeah, you can be with her.
Uppy!
Garnet?
Uppy!
Sure.
So
Did
Alex
Ioth-
and Ariana pick me up.
Did
Thank you.
Ioth trip you up in his non-corporeal fashion?
Ioth isn't real, guys. He's not. He's an illusion.
Are you just like screaming this in the midst of a hall?
Yeah.
Did
I'm
you
like
hit your
the-
head?
I'm like the gif of the guy who points at the board.
Pepe Sylvia!
The numbers. Mason, what do they mean?
Cryus finds his way over to you, drawn at first by the distress in which you found yourself. And immediately upon moving over to assist you, he makes a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, Pog.
He stumbles for a moment as he steps in a pool of oily grease, something incredibly slick on the ground. Goes over looking as if to help you, sees that Alyxander and Ariana already have you, and you're just talking about Ioth not being real. Athalor, roll an insight check for me, please.
I don't know if I'm going to need insight to figure out what's going on in his mind.
Yeah, stop. We're only 13.
All right. A little bit disappointed when he sees her already being helped, but then immediately puffed up and indignant. What? Ioth's not real? What do you mean Ioth's not real? Are you okay? Did you hit your head?
I think you should present a compelling case, Cryus. Evidently, she is out of her mind.
Stop. I'm like picking up the papers and homework I've picked up. Stop, guys. I'm serious. I've seen it. You know, he had the glint of like he sparked it in the it like blinked, but like in real life, and he went on and off, and he wasn't real. I seen it. I have all my stuff now.
Do you
There
just mean
is good historical evidence for all of Ioth's journeys, the time that he spent amongst the Holdra with the Winter King, his travels with the Dok Alfar Sage, his adventures underneath the ocean. All of these have primary, secondary, and tertiary sources confirming that he went on these adventures. And there's well-established documentation of the founding of the Academy. Plus, who else could have made this place?
Aw, and I kind of like fix his hair because he probably tripped a little bit.
Mm.
Oh, that's a really good point. Have you ever seen Ioth in person?
I mean, once a year at the opening ceremony.
But it's an illusion.
Well, maybe
Why don't you all believe me?
maybe
Don't
he's
we?
just
You
too
don't we, guys?
busy. Maybe he's
Alright.
just too busy. Maybe he projects the illusion from his chambers, or maybe he records it ahead of time because he's working on something else.
I mean, I suppose that would make sense, right? Even the first year we were here, he seemed rather distracted. Probably doesn't want to be there. Could have recorded something, used some magic, right?
But his speeches suck and they're pre-recorded.
True.
Oh, that is a bit of a confluence of errors. Imagine if
It's
you
a
got to
once in a
pre-record it and
year
you were like, that'll
thing.
do.
It's once a year. Why can't he make time for his students once a year? Why?
I mean, he probably doesn't care about us, right? He's just still working on his other
Really?
stuff. Otherwise, they'd be good speeches, right?
True. His very first speech was ended with, "That'll do," and then he disappeared.
Well,
What if he's not talking to us?
He's talking
know,
to the
what if
camera.
Hey, no, I mean, like, what if he's not talking to the students, but to something else?
Yeah, I
What
don't
is-
understand
Right.
anything he says in his speeches. You might be right.
I mean, for what it's worth, they sounded a bit better the past 2 years compared to the first, but
The ghostwriter's getting better. I don't know what to tell you.
Are you saying that these might be snippets
He's
of a
a
different
ghost.
conversation that happened in the past?
Well,
What if he's
whatever
a
it is,
ghost?
I kind of believe Garnet here. I don't think Ioth is real.
if somebody was creating an illusion, pretending to be the most powerful wizard who invented most of what we understand about modern magic, a survivor of the Dawn era, one of the last sons of Luminius, well, and they were going to fake that person, he'd probably write a better speech.
Yeah, but hey, if you're gonna pick anybody in the entire universe, especially when Ioth is supposed to be this incredible being,
Which he is.
then why wouldn't you just pick Ioth? Like, wouldn't legend just precede you?
Yeah, but you'd put some more effort into it. If I had to write a speech that was going to be presented by Ioth, it would be really good, okay?
Why do you have to make him look good? Everybody already knows who he is.
Besides, he always knows that someone like you would come and defend him regardless of how Ioth was presented.
Well, then,
Exactly.
what would the point of it? You haven't done the research. I've done the research. He's
don't-
indefatigably real.
either way, even if Ioth is real or not, or someone's impersonating him, clearly someone has other things on their mind, other priorities that they're distracted with.
He's
You could impersonate him. With an illusion, you could make anything look like anything.
You think that would get past every single teacher? They're all pretty accomplished themselves.
Yeah, but like, who
They're in on it.
has seen him?
Stop laughing at the lore. I'm right.
Roll a persuasion check, Garnet.
Oh,
9.
not doing well.
Squeaky's taking all of this in. He's not totally sure that he's sold on a vast scholastic conspiracy at this point.
Well, until one of us sees him in person, you have no evidence otherwise.
Challenge accepted. And he walks off.
Bye.
You have just filled that boy with so much purpose.
Yeah. Probably. Doing my math was one of them.
I don't know if he's going to have time for that now. He's going to try and hunt down an Arc Wizard
Hey.
and get a
More-
high five or something.
More brains on the team. You know, yours doesn't count, but like more brains on the team.
Oh, do we have 4 total now with Cryos?
Yes.
Nice.
All right.
Right.
At roughly that moment, you get your hands on the electives for the next year. A few things are going to change this year. The classes in a lot of your topics, magical history, arithmetic, writing, natural philosophy, Some of these are going to roll over from year to year and just continue to become more advanced as your brains develop. But there's going to be some more separating out of individual students based on the nature of their magic. The fundamentals of magic, the process of tapping into a source of power, filling a vessel with that power, shaping it into a spell and releasing it, that's pretty much standard across the board. But the individual details of where that power comes from, it's different. And it's different for each of you. And so as your power grows, you're going to start to be divided into special classes, just for some of your classes, that cater more specifically to your source of power. There's a speech at the beginning of the year in one of the classrooms that talks about the 4 types of magical sources. And you will each be assigned to a class according to your source of magic. An intrinsic source is extremely rare. That an intrinsic source of magic means that you yourself are a source of magic. It doesn't come from anywhere, it comes from you. Now, I know several of you right now are sitting there thinking, as you go through the onset of puberty and you start to fill your heads with all sorts of thoughts, that clearly that's me. But for most of you, you're wrong. What you have, what you were born with, what you were gifted with, is an innate conduit, a doorway to something greater than yourself. Those of you from the dragon tribes, that's where your power comes from. If the blood of dragons flows through you, yes, there's a little magic in there, but mostly it's just a link to something greater than yourself. That's called channeling, and it is different. Intrinsic magic, you are a font of magic. Channelers have an innate connection to a greater source of magic. Theurgy is not particularly covered by this class. We are not a religious order. Our connection and understanding of the divine is a little bit more refined than adulation and worship. For example, the people of Brontha most commonly petition the Titans and the Sovereigns for their power through rites, ritual, and prayer. The vast majority of you are thaumaturgists, who came here perhaps with a slight inkling for a magical gift, but have mostly learned through diligent study how to create an external vessel to store that magic and to open the doorway to power through mental exercise, arcane gestures, and the right magic words. You're all going to be divided up according to where your magic comes from, because it's time for you to start learning to hone that connection and to make it stronger. So, at this point, they're going to divide you by where they think your power comes from. Alexander, what have they been led to believe if you've succeeded? Are you an innate source of power? Do you have an innate connection to power? Or do you practice magic manually, so to speak?
They've been led to believe that probably have some, like, channel something, so be from the dragon tribes. So use that dragon blood, that link there.
Okay. Roll a deception check and an arcana check for me, please.
Sure. Deception 16. Arcana 15.
All right.
Of course, a dexterity saving throw.
Yeah, why not? Roll a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, no.
Everyone gets boggled as they
As you're called up and they're expecting you, you've had the last 2 years to study. Tell us about the source of your magic. As you're going up to stand in front of the entire class, you slip and just absolutely eat it. There are some snickers, some chuckles, snide comments throughout.
Alexander just tries to pick himself up as quickly as possible, just looking down, face as right as it can get. Scurries forward.
All right. Now, Alexander, you're from the Career tribe. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The blood of the dragons of that land is part of you. And dragons themselves are innately tied into the magic of the elements and of the world. We will teach you to strengthen that connection so that creating a spell will go from being theory and practice to being a spontaneous composition, like a poet. Go sit over there.
Alexander just nods, still embarrassed at his fallen. Stays over.
Athalor, what do you understand about your magic based on these 4 sort of categories? I am just a magical being, I tap into a magical source, I pray for my spells, or I use rigorous study to get my spells. What does Athalor believe, and what has he led people to believe?
I think he's kind of led people to believe exactly what he does, just that he kind of just taps into the powers that like sustain his homeland, and that like he's just acutely attuned to them, so he can kind of harness them a little bit himself, because he doesn't know entirely what his origin is. He just thinks shit's normal, and I also have an imaginary friend.
So I'm not going to call for a deception check in your case, because you honestly believe that. They will comment.
Dexterity saving throw.
Those I'll take, yes.
Bam. Oh, that's a nasty fall. Ah!
All right. The teacher is beginning to lose control of the class. The sheer amount of guffawing, laughter, pointing, and confusion.
Walk much? No.
Got him!
I'm laughing the hardest.
And the teacher's starting to look around like, this is getting weird. But the initial thought is not to check the shadows in the corners of the room for mischievous, unseelie fae, but to look amongst the students, for they have come of that age now where chaos and havoc are even more on their minds than usual. Clearly,
I thought it almost looks at a bunch of like the guffawing students with like the pride of having just won a duel like come at me.
Roll an intimidation check.
What?
Yeah, through the mop of hair, like from the ground with this sort of strangling behind you. Not super intimidating, but the intent at least is made clear. Now, sorcerers are actually rather rare amongst the Alfar. The Alfar are the chief practitioners of thaumaturgy, of practice, of learning magic, even though they all have an innate connection. Magical education and the knowledge of the laws of magic it's like their innate power is a gateway that they open further with study. So they tend to more be thaumaturgists than channelers. So you are a bit of an odd duck amongst the Alfar.
And everywhere else?
Yes. Well, you said it, not me. Now go sit over there. And you're sitting over with Alexander in that same area.
Hey. It's a hard floor, isn't it?
It is. What's going on? Why are so many people? Is someone playing a trick on us?
Oh no, maybe that nurse is getting revenge after they lost their job.
A weird way to try to get revenge.
So stupid.
Garnet, when it's your turn to walk up, roll a perception check for me, please. All right, you spotted a slick patch on the floor, a suspicious-looking, glistening layer, right where several of your friends have completely eaten shit.
Ow.
So you're able to casually sidestep it should you so choose.
Can I do something else?
You absolutely can. You almost always can.
Is Cryus in the room?
Yes.
Lie on this for me, Sim.
I'm gonna like gesture, kind of give him like a cute look and gesture, kind of put my hand out to see if he'll give me his coat.
His brand new yellow robe. He got like 2 hours ago.
Some extra material, like coated something.
Roll a persuasion check for me. Yes, immediately and eagerly. with a bit of a puffed up chest and a over milady bow, he passes it over to you. A tip of the fedora.
Oh, Alex, chivalry isn't dead,
Oh
is it?
no. I give him a smile
Guess
and
not.
take the coat thing and put it on the slick surface and fix my hair and kind of get the wrinkles out and not walk but strut to the front.
Okay. Roll a dexterity saving throw.
Still.
You step over that patch and strut to the front, and as you're nearing the very front of the pack, your foot skids out from under you. You make it look good, and you don't fall, but there's another grease patch.
Ah.
But nobody even notices because everyone's too busy going, ooh, as they see this exchange of Cryus's robe.
Play it off. I
All
think
right.
Nick was being stabbed by a cat.
They were so sleepy and cute. What happened?
Now he's hugging my arm and biting it.
This is the time for violence.
You know, in
No
previous...
kid on kid
There.
violence. We
Show
didn't say
everybody your
cat on kid.
face.
I
Show
did
me your
nothing
face.
wrong.
The face of violence.
Look at your face. Are you a bad cat? Oh, you're a bad cat. Bye.
She's like, I don't kill on camera.
Almost got the face just with a back swipe.
You know, in previous editions of the game, statistically, cats would be able to very quickly kill a common peasant. Don't anyone ever tell me this game isn't realistic.
Are they birds? Those peasants must be birds.
Yeah,
Oh,
they,
I see what you did there. Pheasants.
they dropped the H. Nice. Garnet,
Oh, yeah.
which of these categories, innate source of magic, channeler, divine spellcaster who prays for power, or thaumaturgist who practices arcane rites for power, which of these does Garnet believe herself to be, and which of these has she presented herself as?
I think she knows as much as she presents. I think there's like innate power that is like growing or needs to be unlocked, however you want to say it, and she doesn't know much about it and uses studies to kind of find ways to unlock that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if studying is heightening the powers or rather just unlocking what was already there, but just presents that. Yeah.
Well, that's a common case. After all, you could be born with a perfect ear for music, but you'll never reach your full potential if you don't also receive training. Talent only gets you so far. Hard work and rigorous study is key to honing your abilities. Pulls up a note. Roll a perception check, Garnet, please. 20.
Ooh.
It's a note from Master L now.
If you call her common, she will come for you.
And after reading the note, the teacher has you go sit with the channelers next to Alyxander and Athalor.
Okay.
Welcome to the club.
Ariana,
Very huge fan of what you did to Cry.
you've
Yes?
been studying and learning magic from a very young age, sort of steeped in the actual theory, mechanics, almost math and symbolism of thaumaturgy. But there's also some innate power about you. There's some mysterious things that have happened that weren't because you were trying to cast a spell. There's just some sort of energy or creative force within you. What does Ariana believe about her own abilities?
I think she would also be pretty confident that they were innate. You know, that she had
Mhm.
them. She couldn't really explain where they came from, but they were there.
Okay. Well, ultimately, you're going to be set with the channelers. Again, an innate source of power or an innate connection to a source of power. So the four of you all end up together.
Oh, look at us.
Nice. 4 for 4.
Renobi
Boggles.
also ends up with you.
5 for 5.
Ooh.
Cryus goes and sits over with the thaumaturgists.
Ooh.
Oh.
5 for 6.
So a lot of the training that you're going to receive is about mental exercises and internal meditation and self-discipline in order to expand your connection to whatever your source of power is. You may receive individualized training based on what that source of power is, but really you're all going to be trained almost as if you are sorcerers while also studying additional arcane language and theory. For some of you, that's a great match. For others, it doesn't quite fit. It's not a one-to-one thing. In particular, Ariana and Alexander. No, Alexander, these methods are going to work fairly well for you. Ariana and Garnet, like, perfect match for Athalor. Even match for Alexander.
Boys
Tough,
rule.
tough match for Ariana and Garnet. Just because your power sort of doesn't fit neatly into any particular box. These
Fair
techniques
enough.
will still be helpful, but over the course of the school year, you'll find that it's not perfect. It's not one-to-one.
Just steal part of Gnomes' lexicon, but that was a pretty poggers lie then.
All right. After that's all been assigned, and there's all sorts of talk about, Cryus is saying that actually thaumaturgy is the purest form of magical exercise because it really... You walk past him. He's talking to his cronies. He's not talking to you guys. He's talking to his cronies. You also have the catalog for electives. Last year, you each got to pick your electives. This year, you have a new set of electives to choose from. These are Spell Theory, the Taxonomy of Magic, Discipline, moving on, Logic and Rhetoric.
Can I get that in a sentence?
I posted it to
Oh,
the
that's-
chat.
That's even better.
So,
You know,
sorry, what were you going to say?
I had a moment there where I was like, taxonomy of magic.
Who we
What the
cutting up?
heck does that mean? Because I just confused the words taxonomy and taxidermy.
Me too.
I had the same
I was like, who
thought,
we cutting up?
actually.
We're just gonna get a fireball to like stuff it full of sand.
It's going to be like, you might think that Ioth is still alive. Nope. It's just Chuck Testa.
Ah, damn taxidermy magic again.
Oh God.
That's an old meme. God, I'm old. Internet time is not like our time. But yeah, those are the four. You can tell things are getting a little bit less concrete, a little bit more wibbly wobbly.
Conceptual.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're all I posted the wrong list. You're all taking these classes. These are not electives. These are not.
Oh.
And that's why they sound
good.
so boring.
I was gonna say,
Nah.
can I take none of these for 500, please?
No, you can take all of them, and you have to get good grades in them, or you're going to be held back a year. No,
Damn.
Ariana skiving, weird.
no. The fun classes that you get to pick from are alchemy, runic alphabets, planar metageometry, and supernatural philosophy.
Aliens.
That's an easy A for Alexander.
Aliens.
Yeah. It's actually true.
Just a freebie class. It's like taking English as a second language.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, that didn't post the way I wanted it to at all. But yeah, alchemy, runic alphabets, planar metageometry, and supernatural philosophy. And there are
like the
course
way that it's-
descriptions for each of these available.
Yes, please.
The way that it's
Please give,
posted,
a
it's just like
planar method geometry.
Alphabets!
Alphabet.
Now you know your ABCs. Next time, won't you spell with me? All right,
You must
so-
spell to cast spells.
Alex literally cheats at that class because eyes, or like
Yeah.
the runic eyes.
Yeah, actually.
cheater.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
could
so-
slip through that class, Ace.
Alchemy. It's not just potions class. Alchemy is the rules of the universe. There's this idea that long ago the universe had almost no rules during the Dawn era. before the world was bound into the four kingdoms. But now that it is bound into the four kingdoms, there are rules, there are laws of physics, there are the four elements interacting in different ways. There's a way that energy moves throughout the four kingdoms, basically the laws of magic. Understanding those laws allows you to harness energy, combine different elements to create different things. It does come down to potion making, but the theory is a lot higher. It really is the principles of what are called the Emerald Tablets, the laws of physics and supernatural physics. And if you understand those, you can enact change in the world. It's almost its own type of magic, but it 100% leads to potion creation. Runic Alphabet, certain symbols have power for a variety of reasons. It could be because this symbol, this rune, is sort of a microcosm of a bigger idea, and that idea itself has magical weight, has supernatural power. The easiest thing to say are like the symbols of the four elements. But there's a lot of other runic alphabets out there. Draconic runes, infernal runes, not on the syllabus, elemental runes, so on and so forth. And a lot of casters use runes when they transcribe spells. Some of them, when they're casting spells, they'll draw runes in the air or use items with runes on them to sort of build their matrix of spell energy they're generating. But understanding those runes and the way they interact with each other and how they govern magical forces is also super helpful. If you take this class, you'll learn how to scribe spell scrolls, among other things. Planar metageometry is the study of the four kingdoms, the four planes of the world, how they fit together, how they mesh to create the firmament that protects the world of Anacra, how the energy flows from one to the other.
Dibs.
Yeah, your mentor was going to tell, your uncle was going to tell you to take that class. He was 100% going to be like,
Bitch.
Two of a pair.
And supernatural philosophy is not the answers to the questions of life, the universe, and everything. Before the word science was a thing, the study of the natural world and its laws and how it worked was just called natural philosophy. So supernatural philosophy is learning about things like what are dragons and how do they work? What are elementals? What are genies and fae? There was a class in the last year about the different types of gods and powers. This sort of takes it down a level, which is almost more complicated, to the different types of magical creatures in the world. So those are your four choices. How to taxidermy your dragon. So those are your four choices for elective, slightly more exciting classes. Just like last year, you're going to have to give an end-of-year report. And just like last year, taking this class is going to give your character some unique knowledge or abilities that you otherwise wouldn't get if you don't take the class. I already heard Athalor signing up for planar metageometry. What are the other three of you interested in?
So I guess I or Alex would have a question for the Runic Alphabets course. Like, would Alex think that he would get anything out of it? Because, well, it seems like obviously he can already like read the runes, but maybe he could learn kind of like how to decipher how they all relate to each other and find patterns. Like, could he still get something from that class?
Yeah, it's kind of like knowing the difference between being able to read programming code and actually being good at programming. You have a freebie in that you can instantly translate everything, but that doesn't mean you understand the intricacies of how they all work together. You might be able to look at something and have a basic understanding, but this is going to be a much more advanced understanding. So not only are you going to be able to scribe spell scrolls to store magical energy in written form, but it's also going to mean that when you're able to instantly read things, what you can do, like if you had taken this class before you messed with Dubasif's Circle, you might not have needed your mysterious patron to bail you out.
Yeah. Okay.
And you'll 100% have an advantage in the class because of the Eyes of the Runekeeper.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not like Alex is taking this class to get a free A. He's actually interested in like, okay, how far can he take this? So probably would decide to take Runic Alphabets.
Okay. What about Garnet?
Oh, geez, I don't know. What is the supernatural philosophy again?
Magical creatures, study of different magical, like, what's an elemental versus a dragon, the different types of creatures that exist in the world. Fae, properties of Fae.
Probably that.
All right.
Yeah, you guys do an eschaton?
Yeah.
And now there is no, last time you divvied it up so everyone took a different class. There's no rule that says you have to do that. What is Ariana interested in?
She is going to do alchemy because that means she gets free access to Mordain and she can do it and use it whenever the hell she wants.
Not learning your
Jesus.
She's
lesson.
addicted.
Not
No.
learning your lesson.
Hey,
More
this
drugs,
wants
more
to
drugs.
recreate the plant, okay?
More drugs.
Science, bitch.
I mean, technically, she started down this path botany leads itself very well into alchemy. Also, I like how she's just imagining herself. There's like this daydream sequence where she walks into the class. Welcome to alchemy. Here's your massive supply of Mordain flowers. And they just open a door and it's this garden with nothing but Mordain flower growing in it.
just like an anime sequence of her like laughing on top of a huge like pile of what I
Like you flipping it in the air.
The fuzzy filter, the clouds around the edge of the frame,
Mordain.
sparkles in the eyes.
Yeah, that one.
Breaking Bad pilot.
Magnificent. All right. You've all signed up for your classes. And the school year is essentially underway. We are now entering montage time. Aside from just going to your new classes, the workload definitely increases. Your classmates are starting to act a little weird as they enter this age of their life. How's Alexander's school year going? Like, what does he spend his time doing? He's already done a lot of cartography in the hall. His workload has definitely increased. How's he handling the harder classes?
I mean, he's going to be putting a decent amount of effort in, so like would be spending a fair amount of time. Not the most studious person, but enough to get by with like, B plus-ish kind of range. Definitely wants to learn stuff because he doesn't want to feel like he's behind. Still working his cartography stuff, still trying to probably at some points, I mean, maybe this will be a whole thing, but sneak away from the Great Hall and try to map out more of just the school itself as a whole. And also upon realizing that Sventiska kind of left me on red, is gonna go for a bit of a round 2, but
just turn up at like the foot of her bed. Bitch, you left me on red.
yeah, not quite that aggressive, but is going
We
to
need to
write.
talk.
Yeah, it's gonna write another letter.
I sent you a parchment. Please respond.
Yeah, it's going to say, "There's something that I desperately wanted to talk about. Please meet me in the grove behind the library, 11 p.m. and sign it once again, ACB."
It's the most formal bump I've ever heard.
Okay. We will see how that resolves itself.
That
We'll
has to work.
We'll do one all the way around, and then we'll get back to that. While we're at it, give me an Arcana or Investigation check, whichever's better for you, Alexander.
Arcana or Investigation? 17. Arcana.
17. Okay. Your understanding of runes is definitely increasing. You're learning about things like glyphs of warding, where somebody takes runes and uses them again as an external spell matrix. When you channel power, you sort of fill yourself with that power and then release it to cast a spell. So when people create magic items, they have to create an arcane vessel to hold energy, because normally a piece of, let's say, rock, it can hold like earth elemental energy, but if you wanted to blow someone up if they try to open a stone door, it doesn't do that by itself. Runes are a great way to bind magical energy. So let's say that an incredibly powerful archmage wanted to protect their sanctum where they're working on something they don't want anyone to see. They're very likely to use glyphs of warding or the most powerful forms of runes, which are symbol spells, to seal that off and to block people out.
In this class, would Alex be learning like how to spot those that may be trying to be like hidden, or at least like how to get rid of them or like dispel those?
No, not immediately. It's not something that they're directly addressing because they're really starting with the basics. If we're talking about programming code, you're starting with Hello World. You're not getting to security.
Gotcha.
That being said, understanding these fundamentals goes a long way towards being able to extrapolate to identifying magical runes, hidden secret magical runes, disarming magical runes. When you're done with this class, you will have advantage when you try to do those things. That's not because they're teaching you how to do that stuff. It's because you're applying this knowledge in unconventional, naughty ways.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I think actually at some point Alex would try to pose a question to whoever, like whatever professor is teaching that course, and be very curious and kind of start like naming like, well, what if there's examples of like in the future if I'm trying to get into somewhere that's I don't know, let's say like evil trying to infiltrate something, and needs to be able to understand what to look out for. It's like, and be like, where is there any reading on this, like this kind of concepts? And I already feel like this class is a little bit easier, so I'm trying to take the initiative and learn a bit more.
Oh, it's easy. The class is easy.
I just seem to have a bit of
I'm
a
sorry
knack for
we're
it.
boring you, young man. I would be happy. Allow me to recommend the following texts. Scribble. Actually, the runes.
Gotta deliver like a punitive report.
The rune teacher knows, maybe I can give you this cantrip when we're done. The rune teacher knows a cantrip that copies and pastes written text. So they just take a piece of parchment and it writes a whole bunch of things. It's like, here you go. I'd be happy to recommend some books. I expect you to have these read and to have a synopsis of each, specifically the theories on page 30, in 2 weeks.
Damn, dunked.
All
And
right.
He's about to get stood up. So
Thank-
I got a report.
Sorry. I have homework.
Appreciated, I think. I
Yes.
walked off.
Let me know what you think, and then I'd be happy to answer your questions. Now, where were we? The runes are A, B, C. All right, so when we get back to you, Alexander, you are in a situation where doing all of this reading and writing this report, if you go to visit Sventisco at 11 p.m. and sneak out to the Grove, it will impact your ability to do your homework.
All right.
Eyes of the Runekeeper is massively cheating on this.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to give you a huge edge. Nobody in the class has picked up that you have this ability. But part of the difficulty is that the way Eyes of the Runekeeper works is it sort of gives you captions on it. But just knowing the literal translation isn't enough. So you sort of have to not turn it off, but like filter it down in order to do the hard calculation part. But it's still a massive advantage. Yeah. So the teacher thinks that they just ruined your life when in fact they've just sort of given you a challenge.
Inconvenience a little bit. Okay.
Exactly. All right. When we come back around to you, we will see about sneaking out to visit Sventisco. Athalor, how's the new school year? All these complicated taxonomy of magic and spell theory and stuff. How's he handling all of that?
Just in terms of Ioth Academy as like a holistic concept, do they get to go home often? Do they get the options like visit home for a week?
Nobody's gone home.
They don't.
Nobody's gone home. You stay there until you're done.
In which case, Athalor is quite enthused about the new class because it's kind of like the closest conduit he has to going home right now. And he hasn't been able to think about it much over the last 2 years of thorough misadventure. That's left time to reminisce a little bit lacking. But also, Athalor's kind of he's got a taste for combat magic now. He's spending his free time just back in the dueling room, almost alone, throwing out a couple spells here and there. He's like, you know what? I may have cheated, but I'm also kind of good at this.
Okay. Okay. Your uncle has a thing or two to say about that.
His magic, crude, direct, unsubtle, ineffective, waste of time.
Seemed effective enough on Cryos.
The failure was in allowing it to come to a duel in the first place.
What? He challenged me. What was I going to do? Just stop and do nothing?
Stronger magic would alter his will, make him your ally, or sabotage his efforts, make him look the fool.
I don't think he needs any help in that arena, but do go on.
Enchantment magic. More focused, more subtle. Accomplish your ends without burning things down. Turn others to your tools.
I'm guessing you don't have any guided reading on this. We'll have to visit the library together.
Books, irrelevant. Minds, more useful.
Where am I going to practice on a mind? An animal?
Ample supply available.
And at that moment, this sort of background chatter of students moving outside of Broxworth Hall, the nearly indestructible room that gets used for duels. This sort of faint static of murmurs and stray thoughts, not quite discernible, not quite fully parsable, starts to filter into the back of your head. Little ambient emotions and the occasional word and surface level thoughts, just this hum of mental activity all around you.
Are those people?
Yes, other students.
How do I hear them?
Focus. I will instruct you.
And if you're willing to turn away and spend less time on the big flashy scorching ray spell that nearly knocked you on your ass earlier, if you're willing, Uncle will begin teaching you how to tap in the thoughts of others, how to make yourself receptive to sort of loose, stray brainwaves, if you will. It's difficult to describe. It relies on stilling your own thoughts and
Not a challenge.
no thoughts head empty, and reaching a place where it's almost like it deletes the air, deletes the physical space. You stop focusing on the physical environment that you're in and focus entirely on the presence of other thoughts. Like if you shut your eyes and stop seeing the world around you, it stops existing.
I think Athalor would go in for that. He hasn't really been steered wrong by his partner in crime just yet.
Okay. All right, keep this up and you'll get some fancy new spells that aren't in the player's handbook next time you level up.
Monka?
Something Cryos. It's not an art that the Cryos could teach you.
Not from a Jedi.
As for your planar metageometry class, a lot of it has to do with, some of it is familiar to you. You've got the underworld, the source of all elements, everything falls back into it, and it sort of spews a fountain of elements and energy back up to support the mortal world that sort of floats like a shell on top of it. and then the gaseous boundaries of it form the Sky Kingdom, and the other world is this odd, out of phase magical side of the mortal world. What you're starting to learn is almost the math that governs the connection between these two. Not the legends and the tales about how easy it is to slip from one world to the other, but how you can calculate when energy transfers from one world to the other, how much of it is lost, how much of it is changed. Are there ways you can use this to incorporate into your spells so that when you cast a fire spell, what you're usually doing is opening a conduit to the underworld, to the source of fire, channeling it in a particular way. And also the math of how these different dimensions fold in on each other, and how when you add up all of this extra dimensional math, it creates this nigh impenetrable barrier. But your uncle gives you footnotes to the class as this is going on.
Ability.
Because over time, the equations, and you can do, some of this is theoretical, where it's just nerds sitting down running math and like, oh, this works like this and this works like this. But when you cast spells, you can actually measure the flow of different energies. And ever since the death of Anacra, ever since the beginning of the reign of the Infernals, the math has been slipping. Bit by bit, little odd glitches in the calculations. And your uncle encourages you to focus on those, to track the changes, track the rate of transformation, because that math, and it's more than math, it's also just this metaphysical understanding. If you can understand that, you can control the sphere of annihilation. And you will need, when you create the talisman that will guide it, the thing that you wanted him to help you create, it won't be based on the normal relationship between the four kingdoms. It'll be based on something much vaster than that. And the secrets of that vaster reality are in the places where the four kingdoms are, the firmament is slowly starting to break down. Roll an Arcana check.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
10.
I think that might be an inspiration use.
All right. Go ahead and, yep, burn it.
It was a 16 to 3, mother.
Even worse. It's difficult. They're asking a child, granted a fairly intelligent child, they're asking a child to do some complicated stuff. This is stuff that, like, at least a grad student on Earth, like if we were translating this to real world, this is grad student stuff. And you're being asked to try to grasp it at a very young age. And it's not easy. Are there any other shenanigans Athalor wants to get up to, or anything else you want to add to our montage before we move on to Garnet?
Just occasionally whistling away at talismans just for concentration while like revising.
And as you're sculpting, as you start to understand the way that the world fits together and the very slight, unsettling ways in which it doesn't quite fit together, the shape of these talismans you're sculpting begins to change as well. Garnet.
Yeah.
You're studying supernatural philosophy. They're sort of breaking down magical creatures. You've got elementals, you've got dragons, you've got fae, as well as things less and fiends and things less directly connected to the magical sources, sort of progressing down. I'm not going to belabor the point unless there's something in particular Garnet's interested in which case I'll elaborate.
I think she's interested in. She mainly took this course to learn about shadow elementals, or I think, is that what they're called? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not in the course material.
Oh.
Shadow.
What about just elementals in general.
All right. So the elements are the fundamental physical building blocks of reality. When Anacra came into being, one of the first ideas that was present in the dawn was the idea of substance, of matter. And the essence of matter are the elements. Your classic four, right? Earth, fire, air, and water. So an elemental is just a piece of the universe that is animate because it's so fundamental. It's not just like a rock. It is the platonic essence of rock. And therefore it moves with the will of rock. And when you summon an elemental, you're reaching down into the wellspring, into the underworld, and ripping this piece of primal, animated, energetic rock that very much just wants to be a rock down back there. So they strain against their controls. Most of the time, elementals in the mortal world do not belong there. An elemental is just, again, a chunk of something greater that's been ripped from its normal place. Now, that's the case with what you'd call just your classic elementals. There are other creatures that are elemental creatures, such as genies, salamanders, and others who are still elemental beings derived from the elements, but they have a little bit more consciousness and a little bit more purpose to them. Here's the tricky thing. Shadow is not an element. At least not insofar as these classes are concerned. Everything you've learned about shadow magic, almost none of it ever gets covered in the curriculum. Like, you don't know if you've ever seen it. You've learned more from your studies with Master L now and your independent research. So you can infer that a shadow elemental is something made of void, essentially. And which is a bit of a misnomer, because you can't really make something out of void. So it's almost more like you've pulled a pocket of nothing into reality, and it's like a puppet, where it isn't a real thing. It's like an empty space in the shape of a thing. And if it has an intelligence, it's not an intelligence, it's not a soul in the way that we would understand a soul in this world to be. It's this weird, like, upside down, inverted life form. But a lot of that is stuff you have to infer from what they're telling you about elementals and what your own studies are saying. Because nobody's covering this stuff in class. How does Garnet handle that, and how does she focus on the rest of the stuff that they're going over?
To just add like flavor, because I guess with the recent level up, I learned Guardian Shade, which is like a shadow elemental. But I think it manifests itself by just because Garnet has like these reoccurring nightmares, but they have started to almost manifest like when she wakes up in the middle of the night from like a new fear. Like I think she'd probably be dreaming a lot about the Alyps because that was like a freaky new experience. She kind of is starting to see like a figure around, and she keeps thinking it's like either in her head or it's like an Alyp or something again. But then as she's in class, in this elemental class, she's kind of realizing that her own shadow is like looking back at her. And she's like, what is that? And then kind of like with time through this class is probably going to realize that this is a shadow elemental, maybe even refers to Master L now. And this Guardian Shade spell will turn into something that she can control. But for now, it's just a figure that's kind of looking back at her. And I think through this class, she'll figure out what it is.
Awesome. And a lot of what you learn about, like, they don't teach you how to bind elementals because they say, hey, it's dangerous. You're pulling a piece of the universe that shouldn't be here, and it very much wants to go back. It's dangerous magic. But a lot of the theory you learn about how that magic works, you can kind of take that and reverse engineer it. Because a lot of shadow magic is like normal magic, but backwards, or the empty inverse. So if these are the arcane gestures and mental exercises you have to do to control an elemental, then the absence of that energy or the inverse pattern of that might help you change the way that you cast your shadow elemental. And by cast, I mean cast it like a shadow, like a hole in the world shaped like you.
Yeah, because I mean, the spell is quite literally that my shadow starts animating, and it's considered an elemental. So it's like, for now, it's like a weird figure that is just, she could tell it's just not just a shadow. And I don't know, doesn't know where that came from, but it's more on that like unlocking things, innate things that were there, and through classes is kind of figuring out how to control it. So freaky, but very curious about it.
And it's always difficult for her because, again, the stuff they're teaching her, she kind of has to figure out on her own because none of it really normally applies to her. Is there anything else that any other shenanigans she would get up to, any side stuff that she would be doing? Has anybody noticed that you don't have to eat anymore? How do you handle
I probably
that?
continue to eat. It's probably one of those like I'm not hungry, but since everyone else is eating, like I'll eat too,
Mhm.
and probably hasn't given much thought about it yet, and continues to sleep and act normal. But it's like I'm not tired, but I have to sleep.
Mhm.
It's kind of like
I
I
may
don't
have
need
thought the
it.
DM was trying to make things more expeditious when we took about 5 episodes to do 2 years.
Other shenanigans being, I think like Garnet's becoming, as she gets older, she's becoming a lot more of a social butterfly and is
Mhm.
mingling a lot more with other students rather than keeping to herself.
Okay. What sort of role is she taking on? Is she like gathering friends around her? Is she just sort of she knows a lot of people? Like what's her social presence starting to take shape?
Probably likes to be the center of attention and is
Mhm.
using probably like advanced spells to try and impress like other students, whether it's like, oh, casting a minor illusion without speaking or doing like little things that other people can't do. Whether it's like show them the familiar or show them like different like her
Mhm.
tendrils or something, the twilight tendrils to impress people, and just show spells that no one else knows because she
Mhm.
knows that she's like the only shadow magic user there, and just tries to impress everybody, I guess.
Okay. Sweet. Roll a performance or persuasion check and an arcana check for me.
I'm gonna lucky dice that. Come on.
Okay.
Sag. Okay, that's better and there.
All right. What almost went horribly, horribly wrong with her social life before she saved it?
Probably like making a cool like infernal sound with minor illusion, but a teacher almost walking in and like catching her and almost getting in trouble, but then like maybe stops the spell as the teacher comes in or something.
Okay. So it seems like regardless of her intentions, she's sort of getting this rebellious, that cool kid who doesn't play by the rules, who does the dangerous stuff.
Gonna have a motorcycle.
Leather
The grand
jacket, greaseback hair, the works. All right.
Garnet's Angels.
You want some mundane? I know a person.
I've got the mundane.
I got the
connection.
hookups.
My dealer area.
Okay.
Intent to supply.
So one interesting side effect of this is that Cryas, for all he's awkward, started gathering other awkward kids around him from a very, very early point. So he's got his group that he runs with because he's like that kid who knows all the Pokemon in kindergarten, right? That was sort of his shtick. And so other kids who thought that was really cool have gathered around him. He's smart. He knows what he's talking about. He has a voracious appetite for learning. So he had people sort of flocking around him. And as you start to demonstrate this precociousness of knowledge, there are some people who sort of flit back and forth, depending on what it was that originally drew them to Cryas in the first place. Was it, oh, he knows all the Pokemon, that's really neat, but now look at this girl, look at all the magic she can do, that's even neater. And Cryas is, he's a little bit more by the book. He likes the rules. He likes the laws. He thinks that they're important. And he's got his little coterie that he's gathering. And you start to have some people who are like, wow, Garnet's so cool. And these two groups slowly accumulate as the year goes by. Ariana, how are you handling your new course load with more sophisticated, more difficult classes, more complicated textbooks, and taking to alchemy?
I think Ariana's a bright one, but she's also sometimes unmotivated by things that disinterest her.
Mood.
So, me IRL actually. So like, spell theory, she doesn't really care about that too much. Discipline, that's a word that she doesn't care about either.
Just snacking relentlessly in the back of the
Yeah,
class.
yeah, you
God,
snack in the back of the
discipline,
class.
I love
That's all that like meditation, mental exercises. Think of the sound of one hand clapping. Is this a bunny or a vase? Mind exercises, stuff like that. And constantly, Ariana, focus. Power comes from focus. Get your head back here.
Crunch. Everybody else is meditating. You just hear a loud like crunch in the back of the class.
Imagine a crunch about celery.
Yeah. Yeah. So, she's enough of an individual, but like she also does try to fit in that, after a while she may realize like, I got to take some social cues here and like maybe adapt and adjust in order to actually do well in these classes. But I think for the most part, her full course load is fairly disinteresting to her. So yeah, especially as someone who kind of already believes that she has just magic inside of her. Like, why does she need all this superfluous stuff about like, well, how do I cast a spell? Well, why is this spell important? Oh, wait a minute. Like, just all this stuff is kind of flying over her head. But alchemy, on the other hand, that's a very different story. I think that's going pretty well for her.
Okay, roll an Arcana check for your main course studies.
Uh-oh.
Ariana's one of those kids. It's like, why am I going to need to find X in real life?
That's also me in math.
You'll never have. Remember when did they ever tell you folks that there'd be times in life where you wouldn't have a calculator?
Oh yeah, all the time.
They lied.
Yeah.
I got my phone.
They didn't anticipate the advent of the iPhone, I'll tell you that.
All
All
right.
right.
That pizza looks so good.
Classes are, it's that lack of focus, it's that lack of, it's not that she isn't smart, so you are starting to fall behind. Your grades are starting to slip, that sort of thing. Does that bother, in your non-alchemy classes, does that bother Ariana at all? Does the rest of the team know about this? Is anyone tracking this on her? Is she kind of keeping it to herself?
I think she'd be trying to keep it to herself. Maybe after a while she might realize she has to put a little bit more effort into those other classes. She doesn't get left behind or like moved to another part of the school or
Again.
like she's traumatized. Okay. So yeah, I think after a while she would start to put in some more effort and some more work into these classes. Maybe even ask for help.
Who would she ask for help?
Probably her friends first.
Okay. And how would her friends respond, friends? Also, Ariana, roll a dexterity saving throw.
Oh no.
I thought I had escaped that.
In the end, all are boggled.
Boggled! Just as like everyone's gathered around in the common room, everyone's doing their homework, and Ariana comes in, like Alexander's just got this stack of it looks like crossword puzzles because it's all runes and stuff. And Ariana walks in with her course load, finally making the decision to ask for help, goes sliding across the floor, bumps into Alexander's desk, and just gets buried by a pile of runic manuscripts.
Those are going to be the most indiscernible paper cuts.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yeah, but what about your homework? The books or the what are you looking at?
It's just a lot of coursework. I got bombarded with extra stuff because I'm stupid, but anyway, it's fine. There's just a little bit of grease on the covers. It's all right.
I would ask you to clarify because what you said doesn't make any sense. But I think you have bigger problems, which is whatever this is.
Just a lot of problems, yeah.
Ooh, wow. That's so strange. There's that one day that like all three of you took a tumble, and I don't know, maybe I was a little late. speaking of which, I really hate to ask you guys this, but I'm having some trouble in some of my classes. Like, I think alchemy's going great. Love that class, but how do you guys make heads or tails of any of the other stuff we've got to do?
Oh, those are a little bit more boring, aren't they? Though, generally, a good foundation in overall learning has helped with logic and rhetoric. And how are you doing on discipline?
You all sit in that class. You're very aware of the celery incident.
He's just pointedly asking. He knows how she's doing on discipline.
I could be doing better. You know, maybe.
Oh, do you want a trick for discipline?
Yeah, actually, that'd be great.
Oh, I used to love studying discipline back in the day. Try once you take a shower, set it on cold and try like channeling spells. It really tests your focus and your discipline. It's really fun once you get used to it. And the earlier in the morning, the better, because it also wakes you up for all your classes.
You saying cold
That's
showers are fun?
Pro tip.
Yeah. Don't you like bathing?
Not in cold water.
I'll have to try that, Garnet. Thank you.
Hmm.
That might also make me less hungry. I do hear that if you are... Wait, is it if you are cold or if you are hot? Well, one of the extremes I have heard helps you to not be so hungry. So.
Well, if one
Maybe
doesn't
that'll
work, you
help
can try
too.
the other.
Maybe that's what. That's why I'm
point.
never hungry. The cold showers in the morning definitely help.
Yeah,
Probably
I have
cold.
been noticing you've been eating less. Are you okay?
Oh, just a summer bod, you know.
That's fair. I can respect that.
These yellow robes don't be fitting themselves, you know.
Yellow is kind of unflattering, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Makes you look.
Yeah,
Makes
we just end up all
makes
looking
people
like
look quite
blocks of
large.
cheese.
Oh, I hate that.
Well, I'm sorry that our mandatory fashion isn't quite up to standard for you, Garnet.
I can't wait to graduate. These yellow robes are not flattering, especially on your complexion, Athalor. Ugh.
I know.
Well, we get green next?
Yeah, I think so.
When did we get
Green's
Don't get to be
color.
trees.
Graduate from cheese to trees. Wonderful.
On the way up.
You could finally be an angry tree. Well, at least it'll work nicely for Ariana. She'll be able to be camouflaged when she's working on random plants in the field.
And
So
then
does-
you'll be an actual tree, Athalor.
It's true.
Well, as long as we can find you, if your experiments don't go well,
Yeah.
just don't camouflage too much, you know.
I think next time I'm gonna just tell you guys I'm going on a trip, and if I don't come back at a certain time, find me.
Okay.
Yeah, have you,
I imagine we'll know because our discipline class will be a bit quieter.
Very
True.
true.
have you done drugs since then?
What do you? Wait, no, I was never trying to do the drugs.
I mean, I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying you've on it once. Maybe you got curious again, and I
oh
don't
no,
know.
I don't want to know what happens when you do it properly, because if that experience that I had is anything like that, I don't think I want to do it recreationally ever. That was not fun.
Note to DM: how isolated are we as four?
Well, it's sort of up to Ariana when she approached the lot of you to set that scene, since you have, the whole first half of the school year or so.
I think at any rate, Athel would just be like under sort of like, did you end up having to use all of those medicines that we secured?
No, I think I still saved some, which means that there is more in case I get in trouble again.
Did you note
Wait,
down the
so-
usage in case any of us need to do it while you're indisposed?
Oh yeah, I wrote everything on the bottle, the name of what is in there, and also the dosage.
Oh, good. I'm
Also-
also going to make your illicit activities a lot more safe.
Oh, speaking of that, asking for a friend. Are you sad? Are you? Is there a price on? I'm just. Are you parting ways in exchange for gold? Or
You want Mordain?
Is that what it's called? I thought it was mundane. Okay. Well, some students were really curious about who's a student with a Mordain or something, rumor going around. And some people really want to try it and they want to give a lot of gold. I was just like asking, for a friend.
I don't have a whole lot right now. Like Ariana just doesn't understand what's going on right now because she's like, this is all flying over her head. But she's taking the request fairly seriously. She's like, oh, you must need it for a class or something. Well, right now, I think I only have a few leaves left, but I've been working a little secretly here to, still figure out if I can regrow the plant and then figure out from there how to actually get them into the dried leaf form that we typically use in alchemy. So I might be pretty close. Maybe give me a couple more months. Can you wait that long? Is it urgent?
Oh, no. Our clients can wait. Our future clients can wait. And I think we might have a good, summer jobs. We can just ditch. I think this could be the calling, and I can be the business and then because I'm really good at math. And then you could be the plant person. And then, and I'm like rambling on.
Athalor's basically starting to cut on, and because it's a little bit ethically unsound, he's going to like whisper to Garnet. And also, if someone takes something that they don't want anyone to know about, we do have our own remedies.
Oh. What remedies?
I hate you.
Garnet, don't you think you're popular enough these days without giving the people some Mordain?
I'm just doing, favors for. If people want to buy it, if there's a demand, there's a supply.
Let the free market
You're
decide.
going to name your cult.
What cult? What are you talking about?
You've gained a couple of admirers, haven't you?
Yeah, hard to not notice.
Guys, it's important. Allies in any situation is important. In battle, in school, in everything. If we can get allies,
keep.
Hey, I'm not saying that's impossible, but the more brains we have to this team, the better. The more friends, the better.
You think
You
Christ
only
is
have
getting
3.
True. Do you think Christ is getting
Shut up.
jealous? He's trying to, seems like, form his own little whatever as well. Maybe you're stealing customers from him.
Customer? Oh, does he have Mordain too?
Maybe not customers. Maybe that was the wrong word.
He's selling on your turf.
Customers? Is that my turf that he's
We're gonna do
my
like
clients?
an Avada Kedavra drive-by. Grab all the best.
Oh, we have to duel for our turf. This time it's Christ versus Garnet. Yeah,
This
honestly,
maybe followers is the better word there.
Oh yeah, is there social media at Ioth? Anyway.
There's not. Can
Is he
confirm.
jealous? I think he, if he really cares about my happiness, he wouldn't be jealous.
I think he cares a
Roll.
little bit too much about your happiness, to be honest.
Is that how jealousy works?
Insight checks from anybody who actually pays attention to Cryus. Up to you whether you do
Hello,
or not.
paying attention to my rival.
Not paying attention.
Pepe. Dismiss the simp.
Pepperino hands.
Okay. Alexander and Ariana,
The quiet ones.
it's always the quiet ones, have noticed that, first off, I should actually specify which class, which of the 4 classes he was taking.
Who's he with?
I think he'd be taking Runic Alphabets. I think he'd be taking Runic Alphabets with Alexander. Yeah.
Oh, Alexander's going to be
Ooh,
so
the
much smarter
brains.
than him at this, and it's going to make him real insecure.
He's so mad.
He's so good at this.
You know, I gotta say, like, after you get assigned all those books, Cryus would absolutely have something to say about that. That is a very hefty workload. You certainly have your work caught out for you.
It'd be no secret. There's a stack of books at the lunch table, and Alex is pouring away at those
with
just
that,
looking like.
With that insight check, you can tell he's somewhat indignant about your flippant tone in class. He considers himself to be an excellent student. You're normally kind of the quiet one, and you just flex on the teacher, get assigned all this homework. He kind of thinks it's not like, you know, serves you right, but kind of this is going to straighten him out. This is going to, you know, reestablish the pecking order. But also on top of that, you've both noticed that he and his friends have been doing a lot of their own side research and side projects, and they spend a lot of time talking at lunch, and they are very much sort of retracing Ioth's steps ever since, well, the dawn, really. They're arguing about the primary sources, about, you know, well, we have this log that says that before the Winter King of the Holdra defeated Snyor, he was visited by Ioth, and there's a secondary account of that. Ever since that conversation about him not being real, he's sort of gone down this rabbit hole of just sort of trying to like double, triple check his work to get the whole story.
Does Cryus ever work on like anything else while in Runic Alphabet's class, or does he only like do in-class work in class?
He's pretty disciplined about that. He mostly again, he's a stickler for the rules.
Yeah, okay.
Can Garnet spread a rumor that Ioth isn't real?
Do you want to try to get that with your circle of clout?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Has anyone seen Ioth in the same room as them?
Jet fuel, cat mat, Ioth beams. Oh my God.
Give me deception.
Okay.
18. Okay. All right. How old is Garnet right now?
Now you tell me. Are we at 13 now?
Are we 13?
You can be 10. It's up to you. You can be 10 or 11 in the first year, 11 or 12 in the second year. You are either 12. If you're human, you are either 12 or you are 13, depending on when your birthday is.
Probably 13.
Okay, so you're 13 years old, trying to start a drug selling ring and spreading rumors. Noted.
As someone who comes from Swindon, that is pretty legit.
No one start the rebellious phase at 13. Am I the only one who
No, trust me. 13 was actually the age of our youngest pregnancy at Ioth Academy. So
oh, poggers.
Yeah.
All right.
Preggers, I guess.
Swindon was the leading.
All right. We'll be back after a short 5-minute break. Don't go anywhere, folks.